Relationship advice for men over 50 often focuses on how to find a woman, but rarely warns you about the hidden danger of the search itself. If you are currently struggling with dating after 55 or feel trapped in the emotional distance of a quiet marriage, you're facing a silent killer of your inner peace. The reality is that long-term relationship problems at this age aren't just a phase. They are a signal that your remaining years are being traded for a performance you never agreed to give. You may already be inside this trap, sitting in a sexless marriage or scrolling through apps, feeling the quiet fear that your time is running out. But the threat isn't being alone. The threat is the stress of the hunt, a stress that is quietly eroding your health while you're too busy looking for a solution to notice. Why does this matter now? Because at our age, time is the only thing we can't negotiate for. If you ignore this warning, you aren't just risking a bad date. You're risking a late life divorce that could liquidate your retirement, or perhaps worse, a parallel life where you and your partner are just two strangers sharing a grocery bill. We see men lose their health, their sleep, and their sense of self because they are terrified of a quiet house. They choose emotional numbness over the perceived failure of being single. If you don't stop to examine why you are still looking, the next 20 years won't be your golden years. They will be a slow motion surrender. Warning 1: the high cost of the curated man. Think about the last time you went out with the intention of meeting someone. You probably dressed a little better, watched your posture, and carefully filtered your opinions. You were presenting the curated man, the version of you that is easy to live with. We dismiss this as first impressions, but in real relationships, this turns into a life sentence of walking on eggshells. You see it in the husband who hides his true interests because he doesn't want to deal with his wife's sigh of disapproval. You think you're being a good partner, but you're actually just a ghost in your own home. What happens if nothing changes? You wake up at 70 and realize you haven't had an honest conversation in a decade. You've successfully avoided conflict, but you've done it by murdering the man you actually are. Warning 2: the unspoken caretaker contract. At this stage of life, love isn't just about walks on the beach. It's a medical forecast. When you look for a woman after 55, you're effectively signing up to be someone's primary caregiver or asking them to be yours. This is the truth nobody wants to voice at the dinner table. We see it in men who rush into new relationships because they want someone to look after the house, only to find they've tied their physical freedom to someone whose health is failing faster than their own. We call this companionship, but the consequence is that your final years become a cycle of pharmacy runs for a person you've only known for a few years. You trade your ability to travel or simply rest for a duty you weren't prepared for. If you don't stop the search, you are inviting a burden that may be heavier than the loneliness you're running from. Warning 3: the financial erosion of the new start. There is a specific stress that comes with trying to build a life with someone when the foundation is already set. Many men over 50 feel the provider reflex kick in. They start using their resources, their savings, their homes, their time to secure a woman's presence. You see the man who sells the house he worked 30 years for just to move into a condo that she likes better. We dismiss this as generosity or starting fresh. But the brutal truth is that late life financial entanglement is a trap. If that relationship fails at 65, you don't have 30 years to rebuild. You end up in a rented room, wondering how a 3-year romance managed to evaporate a lifetime of work. The stress of maintaining a lifestyle to keep a partner is a weight that eventually breaks a man's spirit. Warning 4: the death of autonomy. By this age, you have your ways. You like your coffee a certain way. You like the silence of a Sunday morning. When you are looking, you're essentially looking for someone to disrupt that. In long-term sexless roommate marriages, this manifests as a constant, low-level bickering over things that shouldn't matter: the volume of the TV, the frequency of guests, the placement of the mail. We call this marriage, but it's actually a war of attrition. You stop feeling comfortable in your own skin because your environment is no longer an extension of you. It's a compromise. If nothing changes, you simply stop caring. You become a collection of habits and complaints, with no core and no peace. You've avoided being alone, but you've lost the one person you were supposed to be looking out for, yourself. So, what did I find when I stopped looking? I found that the loneliness I was so afraid of was actually just a lack of acquaintance with myself. I'm not going to give you a 5-step plan to happiness. There are no guarantees, but the first grounded step is to stop the hunt entirely. You have to admit that the stress of trying to find or keep a woman has become a bigger burden than the quiet you're trying to escape. This requires a level of honesty that feels like a cold shower. If you're in a marriage that's gone cold, it means sitting across from her and saying, I've realized I'm performing and I can't do it anymore. It means being willing to let the relationship end if the only thing keeping it together is your fear of the silence. Awareness is a heavy thing. Once you see the performance for what it is, you can't unsee it. You start to realize that your peace is a fortress, and you've been leaving the gates wide open for anyone who promised to make you feel a little less bored. Build your walls back up, not out of bitterness, but out of respect for the time you have left. Make your time feel precious. Look at your hands. Look at the calendar. You don't have another 50 years to figure this out. Stop looking for a woman to fix the leak in your life. The leak is in the search itself. This isn't the message society wants you to hear. They want you distracted, dating, and spending your way through your 60s. They want you afraid of the dark, but we know better. We know that the truth is the only thing that can actually set you free. If you felt a sense of relief just by hearing these words, then you know you're not alone. You've just been looking in the wrong direction. Stay with us on this channel. We don't offer how-to guides for a perfect life. We offer the brutal truths that help you protect the life you have left. Take a breath. The search is over. You can rest now.